The following video has been approved by the JD marketing team. The video has been rated JD. The following video may not be suitable for all viewers. G'day mate, welcome to Friday Facts number 364, and I've got the wonderful Mojo with me. How you doing, mate?
Hello, I'm sleepy.
Sleepy as always. It's a late Saturday afternoon, or actually early Saturday evening here. So, because Friday Facts, I think this one did actually come out on Friday for a change, but it's been so long. Yeah. So we got a new Friday Facts, and it's funny. It's 1.1 stable, which is definitely important. Don't get me wrong. And I sort of understand why they did a whole Friday Facts. It's sort of explained in this very first paragraph. When we released the 1.0 Friday Facts 360, we actually stated there were around 150 bugs on the forums and about 80 internal tasks to be solved. These were obviously minor issues, things that were hard to reproduce, very rare problems. In other words, it was quite a reasonable state, which normally goes without saying when it comes to Factorio stable release. But it proved to be a mistake wording it this way, because some media picked it up and presented it as a fairly bugged release. I remember those press articles.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Quite a few people on Twitter got a little angry about that.
I found it fascinating that, like, having a 1.0 release and being able to say, we have 150 bugs for any game sounds like an amazing accomplishment, because I've seen and I've played many games that even on the 0-day patch still have well in excess of 150 bugs, and they were working on it for like 2 or 3 weeks after going gold to actual release. And yeah, 150 bugs is nothing, especially when we're talking Woob scale of bugs. But yeah, they're finally they're pretty thrilled to finally get to the point where we actually have 0 known issues and 0 active bug reports on the forum. It's like cleaning the kitchen properly, so you can start cooking something fresh. More about that next week. So I'm looking forward to next week's Friday Facts. I hope.
Do we finally get to cook fish?
I'm hoping there's something. Factorio's always had, like, every big release was miles apart, which was part of Woob's cycle, and every major release would bring in new players to this game that we've all been playing for, depending on when you bought it, months or years. And since 1.0, they've been quiet. There's been no updates, oh look, we've got a DLC coming, we've got an expansion coming, we've got anything coming, even Oxygen Not Included, which we both compared Factorio 2 to many times. Less than a year later, they put out a DLC after going stable, and they'd announced it months prior. So yeah,
and then we got it, and there wasn't really much there that worth playing.
Yeah, they put a DLC into early access, which is, I've said it before, it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It's a unique one. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel about it. I have played it, I have bought it. I was planning on releasing a series about it, but Dyson Sphere sort of popped out of nowhere, and that is definitely a better game than Oxygen Not Included buggy release. So yeah, my time shifted to the
the Dyson Sphere.
Yeah. So we have Blueprint Flip. It's been requested a lot over the years.
Oh boy.
And they've always said no. The reason being, not everything can flip, like oil refineries, rail signals, pump jacks, etc. Due to these asymmetries, if you flip the blueprint with these entities, the result would be non-functional in the best case, causing complete chaos in others. And it prevented flip problems, and then Kovarex was playing and really wanted to just copy and flip his train unloading setup. Just your typical inserters, chests, and belts. So he decided to just add it and prevented the flip problems by just disallowing flipping blueprints that wouldn't flip properly. Didn't we say that like 2 years ago?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we said that back in 2016. just let us flip what is flippable.
Just give us the option to flip everything, and if it doesn't flip, just drop it from the blueprint. I don't care.
Or just give an error like it actually does.
No. I didn't even need an error. Just You tried to blueprint a station and you flipped it and it doesn't flip, just remove it from the flipped blueprint. Like pretend it never existed. I'm done. I'm sold. 100% sold. Because setting up train outpost stations like this would have been so much easier for the last 2 years. I would have saved thousands of hours worth of Factorio. I would have actually had enough iron for a change with all that time I would have saved.
I don't know about that.
Oh, well, a man can dream.
That's a bold claim.
A man can dream. A man can dream.
You can dream, yeah.
Okay. Wow. So, yeah, we finally have flip. We have rotate, and we have flip horizontal and vertical. And, yeah, there are some exceptions. You can't flip train tracks, I want to say. Or is it just the train stations?
Stations and signals. I don't remember what it does off the top of my head if you try and do it with track in a blueprint only.
I think it can do a track. If you have a train station or train signals, it just gives it an error message.
Yeah, it just
and you can
says
just
error,
go into the
not
blueprint
flippable.
and just remove those entities, and then it flips fine. So it's a massive improvement, and funnily enough, this existed as a mod for several years. Just so
It did.
It was,
and it also like I used to export blueprints to this website called Autotorio to do the flipping for me.
Yeah, Autotorio used to flip it because it was one of those things that you didn't need that often, but there were sometimes it was definitely frustrating enough to try and have to mirror a blueprint, and you just export it because you didn't have the mod installed, you didn't want to reload and everything. Just make a blueprint string, export it to the web page, and the web page would do it for you. Yep. Okay, so we have blueprint flip. Very important, very, very wonderful feature. Next up we have Spidertron Control. So they threw in the Spidertron at the last second for 1.0, and there are a couple of nice features that they really should have been included for 1.1. And they added in spider waypoints first, which were definitely needed because spiders were a little bit stupid when it came to water.
I mean, if you had a small puddle of water, spiders were quite happy with it. It's just large bodies of water, and the fact that they use the same pathfinding that bots use.
Bots or biters?
Bots.
Okay, they just go straight from A to B and ignore everything else. Okay, yeah.
They don't make any consideration for what's in between A and B.
Yeah. So we can now do waypoints, which is definitely a welcome feature. It will probably make me use spiders, but the other one that's very important is another frustration was controlling multiple spiders in combat. The remote works fine for a handful of spiders, but once you get double digits, managing the spider and remotes. The spider remotes and spiders was just a hassle. So along with waypoints, Kovacs added the feature letting follow spider entities and even other spiders, which is super handy. It's
amazing.
You can make a little group of spiders chase one another across the map. Also, if you're ever bored, and especially if you want your train tracks monitored for biters, have a spider follow a train. It guarantees that you will never have biters anywhere near your train tracks. You'll also have spiders wandering around your base forever, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you want spiders wandering all over your base and track forever, I mean,
look, it's a great way to make sure that there are no biters taking out random power poles along your power lines, because that happens occasionally, and if it does, put a spider, get it to go and follow a train, add a roboport, add some robots, and add some large power poles. Problem solved. It auto-corrects itself.
Yeah.
So another wonderful feature, and it now means you can send 30 spiders into combat without an issue, as long as the lead
with a single remote.
As
long as the lead one doesn't die.
Yeah, but then you can, because the updates to remotes, because that's not mentioned here anywhere, you can now clear a remote and use a remote to aim at a new spider. So you could always, if you knew which spider happened to be the second in the list, you could just aim at the second spider and keep the crew going. Definitely another big update. The next one is smart belt building. So with the lane lock belt building added in 1.1, there was some wonky undefined behavior related to rotating belts when building. So we fixed the bug by extending this feature set of belt building with the new smart belt building, which is interesting.
It is. It's a weird one. I didn't actually see this one coming.
I definitely haven't used this feature, and the current one where you can only build straight belts, I'm still getting used to, honestly.
Yeah, that one's. I mean, I think for us, it's a weird one because we spent so long using the old mechanics.
Yes, and I've got so used to like dragging. I've got used to and fairly good at like dragging 4 different belts with me at the same time, or 3 different
Yeah.
belts, or dragging 2 belts in one direction and dragging a belt in the opposite direction, all at the same time. And this new interface doesn't really allow that. You have to remember to let go of the mouse between each click. So yeah, it takes a little bit of practice to get used to. This one, I don't know. It is going to lead to more interesting spaghetti. I remember a mod that had basically this feature where you could say, I want a belt to go from here to here, and the mod would just put in or blueprint in the belt for you, including undergrounds and all sorts of things, and basically spaghetti up your base for you by taking the shortest, maybe not most correct or clean route through your base to run a belt. So maybe this will do the same. It does mean that, yeah, running... You know how you had to, like, when you built your smelters too close together and you end up having to run a belt through a smelter block of, like, more ore out to the other end of the smelter, or raw plates because you end up building a smelter behind your original smelter row, and you had to underground all those inserters. It will make that a whole lot easier.
Oh, definitely.
In theory, you can just drag the whole thing right the way through. So yeah, with that great feature, they gave themselves an opportunity to do a little bit of a feature creep. So we add the anti-frustration feature of automatic underground belts. And I do notice this is the most important one, that towards the end of this GIF, it goes over a belt and doesn't rotate the angle of the belt, which is really important because that's one of the frustrations I've had. I will just put long belts in with the new Ghost Planner, and they're guaranteed to be a straight line, which is really handy when I'm doing long belts. The catch is if I clip another belt, that belt gets rotated.
Every time.
Every time. And there's no real quick way to unrotate that belt. You need to mark it with a decon planner, so then the bot upgrade command gets removed to then unmark it with the decon planner, because you don't actually want that belt to be removed. You just want the upgrade thingy, which is technically not an upgrade thingy because I've tried unupgrade plannering it and that didn't work either. Yeah, it's a little bit of a funky function, so maybe this will fix it. We'll see. But being able to build spaghetti this quickly and this easily is definitely going to lead to some unique bases. Unique bases is definitely the phrase I'm going to go with.
And probably some mannerisms along the way.
Possibly, but worst comes to worst, you can just grab another belt and just drag it through your base, and the mechanics will take care of it for you.
Oh yeah, you don't even have to think about the spaghetti and how to route things. Just click and drag.
Click and drag and hope for the best.
Switch the brain off.
Yeah, well, best of all, like, if you can't get there with a yellow belt, use a red belt. Get more undergrounds. Get that further reach. Go all the way up to blue. Hell, add in some modded ones. Go for underground belts that now go 30 long, because you can.
Yeah. Having said that, I have run into a few things with Factorio Extended where it placed down yellow belts when I was dragging purple belt.
Oh, well, look, one moves 15 items per second, one moves 75 items per second. I'm sure that's not going to slow down things at all.
Not at all. It's not like it's like 7 times slower or anything.
Yeah, it's not 7. Mojo can't maths. Anyway, multi-threaded belts. So, in the constant battle with optimization to let players build bigger bases, quite often we do some small changes to give performance gains in the range of 1 to 2%. Recently, I started looking at the possibility of multi-threading transport belt logic. This is one of the more significant performance drains, as it's still being done single-threaded, resulting in huge potential performance gains. Transport belts are already quite optimized back in Friday Facts 176. One could simply say make it multi-threaded, but there are a lot of technical challenges to solve. So, in our figure 1, we have, if they did multi-threading, it would, it would depend on which transport belt was updated first to decide whether the iron plate landed on the belt first or the copper plate, which could make things bad, because Factorio is completely deterministic? Yes.
Yes, deterministic.
Yeah, deterministic. So if you run the game If you load up a save and you run the game for 10 minutes, nothing should change if you load it up again and run it for another 10 minutes.
Or if you load it up on 10 different computers, same, and run it for 10 minutes, that you should have the exact same result.
Yeah, the exact same result on every computer. And that's really important. A lot of games don't do that. I know a lot of games, even from memory, Satisfactory was having problems with that.
Yeah.
Recently, lots of games have problems with trying to get things to match 100%. So, first off, transport line groups, which are these little blue and white lines here. After some observations, I know a trivial fact. Not all transport lines can interact with one another. The left transport belt on the horizontal belts, i.e., what's that? That one can never receive items from the right-hand side of the horizontal belts. Blah 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 blah. Basically, the iron, the belt that's going north, can never put stuff on the lane of the belt that has iron.
Because it's side loading, it can never put it on the far side.
Yeah. Which is important when building your factories. It's also very important if you want to multi-thread your belts. Yes. So we now have this pretty little diagram, and we can see that there's multiple colors because multiple of these belts don't actually interact with one another. Any different color is two different colors are two separate belts that don't actually interact with one another. Which
so they can all be.
Yeah, well,
they can all be multi-threaded.
Multi-threaded, all right, which is a massive potential performance increase. It is a potential. They did do a belt multi-threading a little while ago, and they tried.
This would have been that.
Okay, this was this update because I know when they first did it, some bases improved, some bases didn't improve and got a little bit worse.
Yeah. I think I can understand why that happened. It's actually an interesting point, is that this is why my 8,000 science a minute base runs at almost 60-60.
Oh, does it?
Which is unthinkable before.
Look, bases keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger because not only do computers get more and more powerful, but also the game is optimized and optimized and optimized. Maintaining those groups to itself was a challenge. When a player builds or rotates a transport belt, underground belt, or a splitter, transport lines will change their connection, and some groups may now connect, and they need to be merged. So that's something they need to pre-program in. That yes, if you join the green line and the yellow line together somehow, then they need to all process in one single thread together. So, a couple of things that you need to take in consideration is Wakeup Lists. By far the largest issue they faced with the transport lines are entirely independent. We have sleep wake-up mechanism in the game since version 0.09, and it goes like this. Inserters taking from belts may become inactive if there's nothing happening on both transport lines to save UPS. This has been in the game forever.
And this is fundamental to how inserters find things.
Yeah, and it means that yes, in a giant base, if you have like your green circuits are backed up, all the inserters are turned off, all the belts are turned off, they no longer process. As soon as you start drawing green circuits out of it, it does mean that, green circuits are going to start moving, copper's going to start moving, iron's going to start moving, all those inserters are going to turn back on, depending on which ones can pick up stuff and put them into the assembler. So it's potentially a giant CPU usage because things start turning on. But the thing with Factorio is most of the belts are running at a constant amount, so you've got a constant amount of UPS generally. But yes, it does mean inserters go to sleep, inserters need to be woken up. Consequently, they need to program that if belts are now going to happen in different threads, they need to work out how to wake up an inserter, which is bleeding off two different lanes of the same belt, which is potentially two different CPU threads. They added a wake-up list. Rather than waking up the inserter immediately, they basically add a signal to the master thread that needs to decide when set that inserter to wake up and then decide what that inserter is going to grab off which lane. So with wake-up lists and other similar cases handled properly, I started comparing some belt-based mega bases which are capable of reducing 10,000 science per minute, and notice the transport belt update times dropped from 4 millisecond down to 1.6, which in total update times gives a 20 to 40% overall performance gain, which is massive. We haven't had an optimization like that since 16.
Yeah, since this, well, as far as transport belts go, that would go back to the original transport belt update from 15 to 6, 15 to 16 or 16 to 17.
One of the two, but there's only been one or two other times. I think it was going either into 16 or into 17, where there was a whole bunch of optimizations coming at once, and we saw over the whole game a 20 to a 30% performance increase. And this one update, if it does 20 to 40% overall, that's massive.
Oh yeah.
And now we
admittedly, this isn't blanket 20 to 40.
No, it's on heavily belt-based basis. So if you've got all bots, you're not going to see anything. If you've got all trains, you're not going to see anything. If you've got lots of belts, you will see a performance increase, and a significant one. But I don't know. I don't know if most bases nowadays are belts, bots, or trains. I guess it's still a mix of all three.
My 12K Factorio extended base from version 16 did see quite an increase.
Oh, okay. Okay. Dragged it through the multiple versions, did we?
Yeah, it even had to make a mod to revert the signs back to the old recipes with the mining drills and the blue signs.
Oh, yes, yes. The many, many changes over the years.
Yes.
So then we come onto the new train overview GUI, and yes. So in the beginning, the original train GUI was added in 13 and only had cosmetic changes all the way up to 1.1.
This has had a very rocky past, this thing.
It's
a very controversial one.
It's been very useless, honestly.
You weren't around in 13, were you?
I was. You were? It was all there was in 13. And
this thing was massively hyped up initially before 13 came out. And then we got it and it was amazing. And then we started adding trains to it. And then the game would drop to 1 UPS when you had the window open, and you would have to fight with it to try and close it to restore the game in a multiplayer game.
Hang on. And it did that because every single one of these windows was a separate render of where that train was.
Yes.
Right. So if you open this up, you'd have like 20 different renders of Factorio, plus the main screen behind it, because this is a cut-in screenshot. You had the main game behind that still. And yes, you would drop to very, very, very low UPS when you first open the train window. They did fix that. They did fix many things along the way.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was great when it started, and then there were problems.
and then it was amazing when you could actually use it. And then 15 came along, and it became completely irrelevant.
Yeah, in 15 we had the ability to now click on a train station.
Yeah.
To get a list of the trains, and click on trains from map view. Was that 15 or 16?
15, being able to select things on map.
Are you sure that wasn't 16?
I'm pretty sure it was 15. I mean, go check.
Mojo with the multiple versions of Factorio right at his fingertips. I think clicking on train stations, I think that
came later.
I think that was a 15 to get a list of all the trains, and I think
it may have even been 14 to click on the stop. It may have even been older.
Maybe.
The main thing was that you could zoom in. It was the map view was on 15, meant you could actually zoom in and helicopter over stuff. That was the big thing.
Yes. Okay. Long story short, you could finally click on trains from map view in some way, shape, or form, and alter trains' orders from map view, which then meant that you never, ever, ever open this GUI again, because it threw trains in their train ID number, I believe is the ordering system.
Yeah, the train ID, so it was the order in which they were built.
Not guaranteed, because if you picked up a train and put a new one down, it could end up halfway through the list rather than the end.
Yeah, because once you remove it, it clears that ID and then creates a new one.
Yeah. So, it was a hot mess. It was a hot mess to try and find anything. And the search up at the top right, which I tried using often to search for trains in manual mode, never found the trains in manual mode. And what else was there? It was really good for looking at 20 trains. If you happen to have over 100, it was useless. Even when you didn't have like frame drops from opening up the window, because that had been fixed. It was still, hot garbage. So yes, the basic design was clear. A list of all trains, you could see the schedules, you could click the button to open the train, and you can search by schedule as long as you're not looking for manual mode. At the time, it was a really big step forward, and no disagreeing. It was massive when it was released, and the updates they had done had improved it. But there was no other good way of interacting with trains, and it was really designed for 10 to 20 trains.
Yeah, pretty much. That's actually pretty much. As soon as you went beyond about 20 trains, it was unmanageable.
Yeah. So with time, the game evolved. Factories were growing, and subsequently, the number of trains kept going up. The insufficiency of the GUI became very, very clear during our internal 1.1 playtesting. We played for a whole week and extensively used the new train limits. We had over 100 trains and 200 train stops. Yeah, me and Mojo will disagree that that's extensive, but sure. Whilst playing, I also became.
It's a good start.
It's you're getting there, guys. Okay, we appreciate the effort. You're getting there. Whilst playtesting, I also became highly familiar with what features I wish the train GUI had, and what questions it should answer. How many trains do we have? How many stops do we have? What is the cumulative train limit of all the stops of a certain name? Am I keeping up with demand for the given item? And mainly, do I have enough trains for this route? Because they've added the new max limit of trains per stop, yes, it definitely needed a overhaul and a change, so you could, and it's been a request for a very long time, and I think it's probably why we have mods like the Train Supply Manager and the Logistics Train Network, so you could see if there were 10 trains linked to a station, you could quickly find what those 10 trains were without trying to fumble through the GUI that Factorio gave us.
That doesn't tell us anything.
Yeah. So in their 1.1 playtest, this is after 40 hours, they did attach a screenshot, and it's very pretty and neat. I think V was banned. That's the only thing I have to say.
Must have been the case.
Yeah.
Either that he was
sent to deal with the natives.
Or either that, or he's told to build the train network, because he is actually a big OpenTDD player, so he may have actually built the train. May have been told not to touch the
Don't touch the belt. Don't touch the belt.
Yeah, and he'd just been given a pile of railroad track and say go nuts.
Actually, there are a lot of trains shunted into the base, not like just on the outskirt. There's a couple like towards the middle. So yeah, I'm willing to bet V got the opportunity to build the train network. Also, right in the middle, there's a lot of yellow, so I'm guessing they're all belts and maybe a little bit spaghettied up from prior to them unlocking train tracks. But yeah, the outside is very, very neat. And yeah, this is 40 hours with 100 trains and 200 train stops, which means each train is a to B train, which, yeah. Normally, I think in most megabases comparison, it's like 200 train stops and 150 trains. It's almost a 1-to-1 ratio, because you have like 10 trains going to one train stop to go get iron, so like 150 trains and 75 train stops. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, new trains GUI. I started making a mock-up mod in Lua. Allowed me to quickly iterate off the design and content of the GUI much faster than C++ would have allowed. After 2 days, I basically had a finalized design ready. After we reviewed the mock-ups, we agreed it was a massive improvement and decided to make it properly. I took it as a Christmas homework to write the new train GUI into the engine for C++, even though programming isn't much my area of expertise. After New Year's, it was ready, so we did the usual QA and released it into 1.18. Now, funnily enough, I haven't seen this because I haven't built a train at all since 1 point something. Obviously, prior to 1.18, I've been too busy with bases that explode, grayed out bases, nukes randomly dropping on my head from Twitch. Chat help.
I was going to say, you've really been slacking off here.
I just haven't got to
trains.
I haven't got to anything that had tracks and wheels and moved. Because I'd have giant biters show up because chat deemed it so, or nukes drop on my head, which generally meant I had to stay away from anything important. So yeah, there are two tabs in the new train GUI. Each one follows a simple but meaningful design principle. Trains tab, a list of all trains categorized by their schedule, and a stations tab, a list of train stops categorized by their name, which sounds brilliant, actually.
It's actually incredibly useful.
the simple fact that I can click Iron 1 and see there are 10 trains allocated to Iron 1, and then go to Iron 2 and see there are 10 trains allocated to Iron 2. More importantly, being able to go to Iron Unload and see that the 10 trains from that one and the 10 trains from that one are both allocated to Iron Unload sounds like a game changer to me. All right.
Oh yeah, and then you question why Iron 1 and Iron 2 exist because of the train stop limit, because you don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, well, I also notice here they have a distance to station.
Yes, it shows you the distance they are away from it.
Which is going to be really, really handy for our next Race to the Edge map, because
you're going to see some silly numbers.
You're going to see some ridiculous numbers. Each tile in Factorio is 1 meter, so you're going to be able to jump in a train at spawn and see it start at a million meters. I really hope. Well, we can already see we have 2,239 meters down here, so I haven't converted it to kilometers, but yeah, you're going to see a million meters and see it count down. So yeah,
either that or you're going to see the game break because they didn't account for a distance that big.
That's possible. I could actually see the text falling out of the little square that they've given the room for, because that's something I've noticed, that they've here repeatedly used the icons rather than calling it copper or one left of base northwest drop off. So I'm wondering how they handle longer station names inside these little windows.
From what I recall, it crops.
It crops, okay. Which means you don't get to see the meterage, which would suck. Okay, I would say the most controversial part here is removing the schedule display under each train and replacing it with the state description button. With the schedule displayed on the side, it's almost completely redundant information. The state button provides a much more precise and relevant information. You can see which stop it is going to, how far away it is. You can also click on the state button to open the map to a specific area, a specific train stop it is going to. The nice thing is, whenever you have something wrong or inconsistent schedule, you can easily notice it in this list. So I haven't used this. Mojo, if you screw up and send a train to the wrong station or screw up the schedule, can you notice it easily?
Oh yes, I have actually used this already when I was converting the 8K base from my old system over to the train stop limit system.
Oh, okay.
It was really easy to find the trains that needed to have the orders updated and push them over.
Okay, so it's really easy to notice Mojo's screw-ups. Excellent. Good to hear.
Yes.
Good to hear.
Which by extension means it's really easy to notice your screw-ups now. And then we can throw nukes at you every time you make the mistake.
I never screw things up, okay? Never, ever, ever, ever.
They're just happy accidents.
Yeah, no, they're just unforeseen circumstances that lead to future content, okay? Okay, so then we have the stations tab. So this is the new tab. It's completely new. There are no changes that people could disagree with, which I'm sure from the devs' point of view they're thrilled about, because whenever they change something in Factorio, somebody complains.
Inevitably.
The aim of this tab was trying to present all the information about the train limit of each station in an easy way for somebody to digest. So the remark in the form of reservations train limit describes the station state. When I look at the drop-off plus pickup stations of a single product, I can easily identify 3 basic states. Not enough trains, not enough input, or backed up. So yeah, we can see, like, what's that? Copper drop-off is 7 out of 12 with... Hang on, let me try and read this. That's 7 out of 12. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, so it's listing all 12 trains. No, because there's 15 trains. There's more on the list which we can't see. Okay.
Yeah, the ones that are not heading there right now.
Okay, so it should be fairly easy to, look at a particular station, look at all the trains that attach to that station. More importantly, if everybody's going to Iron 1 to pick up iron, you should be able to see very quickly how many trains are on their way to Iron 1, how many backed up at Iron 1, and also be able to change reservations and change trains from Iron 1 to Iron 2 to Iron 3 as each outpost slowly dries up. Yes?
Yep.
Excellent.
Now, having said that, I noticed earlier today, one of mine was showing an exclamation mark, and I have no idea what it means.
That
I
you're
think it's
awesome.
related to train stop limits.
That you're awesome.
Probably.
I'm willing to
Yes.
bet, because they did mention somewhere in one of the Friday Facts, I do not remember which one, because it's been that many weeks since we've been regularly doing Friday Facts, because they just haven't been releasing.
It's actually been nearly a month. Over a month, actually.
Over a month. It's got to be like 6 to 8 weeks. I do remember that they did mention that if a particular error state came up, rather than just having a train stop and not go to a station, it could go over the reservation limit by a limited amount. So I'm willing to bet that exclamation
Oh, that's
mark.
what it was, because the train stop didn't have a limit, but the others did. It
Okay.
was the odd one out.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. And
Yeah, I did work it out.
There we go.
Forgotten that I'd worked it out.
I knew there was something. Okay. So save game speed. So, by the good old seeding. So, there are many things in Factorio that he's optimized over the years, and that we can all agree. Whenever we see our Friday Facts with our city's name in there, it pretty much means the game is going to run faster.
Or something's got to be significantly faster.
Some percentage faster. There are times when he spends like 3 weeks going down a rabbit hole of looking for a bug to find out it was nowhere near where he started in something entirely unrelated. Those are interesting Friday Facts too.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's done everything. He's runtime performance, startup time, saving, loading, even the quit speed, because he reopens the game like 300 times per session. So he has optimized the crap out of the game just because he worked out he could save 3 seconds each time he has to open and close the game, which in a day was several hours.
Yeah. It's funny because these are all optimizations that benefit him because it makes him more productive.
Yeah, and he is the type of person I gather who hates sitting around twiddling their thumbs.
Yes, like a few years ago, I bought an i9 just so the game would start up faster.
Oh yeah, he bought a top of the line, like extreme $2,000 CPU just to make the game run faster, to open and close it faster, to code faster, to work faster. All right. So autosave time has always been one of those, I wish it could be faster, but never found anything that stuck out or gave me any measurable improvements. Several years ago, he parallelized it to iterate the game and compress and save to disk. However, there hasn't been any major improvements since then. The issue you always run into, I could make one of the two processes faster, but the other one always bottlenecks. So the overall speed didn't change. Every few months I go back into it and try and think of a new way to make it faster, but always around the same issue. And then we have try and see. The other week I was doing that again and wondered just how much faster the save process would be if I just pretended to compress and write to disk, but it didn't actually happen. It turned out a lot. The larger the save file, the more time got spent waiting for the compress and write to disk. After thinking for a while, I decided instead of saving the map information as one big compressed file, I split it into multiple compressed files. It's not a new concept, but one we haven't done before in Factorio. Quick 30-minute implementation and later showed that without a lot of changes, it just worked. The end result meant that the compress and write to disk parallel processing never blocked the main iterate the game logic. That alone made the entire save process around 20% faster, and as a side result, any improvements I made to main logic gave direct further improvements. In testing, I performed the larger saves, saw upwards of 2x improvements to save times, which is massive.
Oh yeah, so my current save, it saves about 3 times faster than it did before the update.
I haven't updated, so I'm still stuck at 1.115, I think. I'm a few versions behind because my mods are not exactly easy to update, and to go to the next version, they physically required an update. So I haven't updated, so I haven't seen this. But I have to say, like, because I'm recording YouTube episodes, I physically turned off the autosave, and I just make sure I manually save at the end of every episode, or at the start of the next episode, or whatever it happens to be, which is roughly every hour. And there have been times where GPU drivers have crashed. I've had a power outage go. Something's happened.
You'd hate for something that needs a rollback or a safety net.
Yeah, well, I've lost, 30 minutes to an hour. To sometimes I've done work between episodes, and I've been working on stuff for 3 hours, and I've lost the whole lot because something happened, right? So, because I've just turned off autosaves. The autosaves, I remember back in 15, they used to take a very long time when I was writing to a spinning disk. I've updated then, obviously, on an NMVE, whatever they're called. Yeah.
NVE?
Yeah, brain's not working. One of them. Actually, no, I think I'm in a solid state.
Well, it's a type of
it's the same thing. It's
M2 NVMe SSD.
Yeah, it's a super fast hard drive, much higher write and read rates, and it still takes forever to autosave. I have even experimented with. There's an option in the hidden menu where you can turn off compression of the saves and choose to have a very large save file in exchange for not spending time compressing it. And I found it early game makes a bit of a difference. Late game, no, you're spending too long writing data to disks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this update. It means that maybe I'll turn autosaves back on, because I gotta say, like, yeah, when recording episodes, having a 1 minute blank in the middle where it's saving and writing to disk is frustrating. Very frustrating, especially when you're building mega bases or in the middle of combat. That was my favorite spot. Actually, no, I think my favorite spot was when you're crossing across a train track, the autosave comes up, and then you're like, oh, there's a train on the edge of my screen rushing towards me. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Yeah.
Once upon a time, people would turn the autosave off because it took so long on big saves.
Mm-hmm.
And then what would happen is they would inevitably get hit by a train. And once upon a time, the game forced you to reload the last save.
You died.
You rewind.
That was it. You died. There was no respawn. There was no nothing. You actually, that got changed. So first off, you died, and they had to load a save. And then they changed it so you died and went to spawn, but your body and everything on it disappeared, right?
Yeah, that was 13. That changed that.
Yeah.
14, I don't actually recall which.
Yeah. So then you had the option.
It was part of the multiplayer update to make the multiplayer make more sense. But yeah, version 12 and older, when you died, it just popped up a menu that said, bad luck, you're dead. Load or quit.
Yes, I remember that. And actually, recovering your body, I think, was a 15 update.
Yeah, dropping the body was 15.
Yeah, so between like 13 and 15, if you died and you turned off autosaves, you had two choices potentially. One, lose all the progress, or two, go back to spawn and rebuild potentially your whole...
lose all your stuff.
Your power armor and everything in your inventory. And yeah, there were many times I chose to load the save because I'm like, I'm not repeating 3 hours worth of work because I turned off autosaves. Yeah. But with that's it for Friday Facts.
That is it.
364. It does mean that the next Friday Facts, in theory, next week is Friday Facts 365, and hopefully they have some sort of update because.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever comes next. Something to rebuild the hyper engine. Something for us to look forward to. Because right at the original, Mojo can definitely remember this. Right at the original Indiegogo, the plan was to go to space after conquering the planet. And then we've had the space exploration mod where you go to space. Prior to that, we had the Sub-X mod where you built a spaceship, although there were no graphics for it because in version 12 or 13, Factorio couldn't support that for the life of it. And then we have games like Dyson Sphere, where you actually go to space. And you...
There's a funny story about that.
Yeah, what?
Probably for another time, but... Alright, when you go to other planets on Dyson Sphere, I thought you'd build a ship and then fly there. I didn't realize you'd literally fly there.
You literally
fly up and fly.
Yep. You literally are the spaceship. You go to other planets. Yes.
I didn't expect that one. So I spent quite a bit of time looking for the ship, and then I didn't realize that you actually just fly there.
Which is sort of counterintuitive because you were landing a ship to start with. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking for what comes next. There's many people have said it throughout the history of Factorio that if they did another Indiegogo, if they did a DLC, they don't even have to probably tell people what's going to be in it. They'd just be like, yeah, take my money.
Just take your money, yes.
I'm just going to just buy it. I don't care what it is. You devs have done such a good job. And look, I 100% agree with this. I don't think I care what they release next, all right?
I mean, we did that for Oxygen Not Included DLC.
I didn't. I didn't.
But you didn't?
I waited. Oh no, I knew how much a buggy mess it was when I first bought it when it hit into Steam Early Access. I sat back, I played the free weekend or whatever it was, and then I did buy it, but I didn't buy it straight away. I definitely waited for a few patches to come out to confirm that the whole end game that was in the original Oxygen included, they hadn't removed when you put on the DLC.
No, the game stays as is.
They're adding those features back, the ones that they've cut. So, yeah. But yeah, Woob's a different story. Woob is like... What year did 15 come out? 14 come out?
14 was towards the end of 2016.
Whatever. I've been doing YouTube for coming up 4 years next month. So in 4 years, I've been playing Factorio, which is when 15 came out. I'm sold. In 4 years and many Factorio updates, they've won my trust. I think that's what it really comes down to. They've won my trust. If they told me they were doing an RTS game and they wanted $60 as a GoFundMe, Kickstarter, whatever.
I just realised it is actually almost 4 years for 15.
It's...
Or was it February? I don't remember.
I started my YouTube channel in February, and I think it was March-ish, April. 15 came out, and that's when I swapped from Oxygen Not Included on YouTube to Factorio. So, yeah. It's been just about 4 years since 15. Which means,
because it was early 2017.
Yeah. If Woob decided that they would drop an RTS, I don't know about a first-person shooter, because I'm not a fan. Another factory game, anything. I would happily pay for it without a thought and wait for the releases, wait for the alpha testing, wait for the beta testing. I can't wait. But yeah, I think with that bombshell, that's where we're going to leave this video. Yes.
Yep, that's it.
Yep, we'll hopefully see you guys next week. As always, thank you guys for watching. Do hope you're enjoying, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.